Hello, I'm David Sprinkle, the Director for Package Facts Pet Market Research. I have with me here today David Lummis, whom we know in-house as our pet market guru, a designation that he has more than earned through long tracking and projecting of the pet market, including through annual Pet Market Outlook reports, which we just published our most recent. So we'll be talking just a quick interview about some of the findings, some of the trends, some of the opportunities discussed in this most recent report. So welcome, David.
Thank you.
Let me start with the nuts and bolts. The Pet Market Outlook estimates 14% growth for the overall pet market last year. That's on top of the, in itself, remarkable 10% growth in 2020. Given the resilience and the sales growth performance of the pet market in the wake of COVID-19 and despite COVID-19, what do you project in terms of capital investment and M&A activity in the industry?
Well, the last couple of years have been banner years, and it's difficult to sort of overestimate the positive impact of COVID on that, sort of ironically. One of the things that happened is a lot of the people who were in the industry sort of reevaluated their business plans and realized that for one thing, that the industry was doing very well during the pandemic, but for another thing, there was an incredible amount of uncertainty in terms of what might happen going forward. So one industry analyst described it as sort of a rush to the exits, which resulted in a record number of transactions in 2021, including several very large deals. And actually that has continued into 2022 with such large deals as Swedencare's acquisition of NatureVet for like almost 500 million. And then of course, Mars' surprise acquisition of fresh pet food maker Nom Nom Now. And that amount is not exactly known, but it was rumored to be in the neighborhood of 500 million to $1 billion. So really, it's sort of a big green light, in my opinion, right now for ongoing very strong performance in the market in terms of mergers and acquisitions and outside industry investments throughout 2022.
What about the macro uncertainties now, the economic, the political, international, supply side? Do you think those might dampen what could be a new stage in market growth?
Well, it's a little bit early to tell. They haven't so far. So a lot of those factors were at play, all through COVID, and the market continued to perform, extraordinarily well to sort of overperform. The biggest sort of new X factor is, of course, the war and all of the uncertainty that brings with it, including the possibility, according to some economic analysts, of recession, which would never be good for any business. But again, it's really too soon to tell, and the reports of the economic projections are very mixed, and you've still got a lot of bullishness on the pet market. So even in the advent of a very negative downturn for the economy overall, the pet industry very well may remain sort of a safe haven for investors, and it could even represent opportunities for like opportunistic acquisitions, as has been the case in the past in the pet industry.
Okay, yes, thank you. So on to our next question. Over the last several years, the conversation has broadened out from thinking simply of e-commerce, of sales of pet products online, to digital pet care much more holistically, and competing through digital pet care much more holistically. So what do you see in the competitive landscape in terms of digital pet care innovation?
Well, to a large degree, it all tracks back to e-commerce, because so much of what we're calling the digital revolution in pet care is dependent, of course, on pet owners being online and being sort of reasonably internet savvy. So one of the things that we're seeing is the internet as sort of a pet care influencer in terms of the types of products and services pet owners are choosing, and the types of products and services that, of course, are available to them. There are more and more sort of Bluetooth technology products, and one of the probably the most important functions of those kinds of products is to connect pet owners more directly with pet care service providers, including veterinarians, which of course leads back into the boom in veterinary telehealth that got a big push, as it did on the human side during the pandemic. One of the other very important I think ramifications of digital is that brick and mortar stores, which are of course, being affronted by e-commerce, are now sort of turning digital to their own advantages by offering sort of buy online, pick up in store options, which actually gives them the advantage over pure play internet players such as Chewy and Amazon, because PetSmart, Petco, et cetera, with their massive number of stores, have in effect what we're calling mini distribution centers. So they can actually get products to consumers faster than the pure play internet providers. So, and then of course, but it pervades all areas of the industry, also just in terms of being able for pet adoptions, being able to locate pets, and in terms of non-medical pet care service providers to be able to find vetted pet care service providers, dog walkers, pet sitters, et cetera. So it's just across every area of the industry now, and it will only increase in importance along with e-commerce.
Similarly, in terms of getting products to consumers faster, and is the direct-to-consumer model, which we're seeing more of in the pet industry. Can you talk about that trend?
Yeah, direct-to-consumer is really taking off. I mean, I think one of the biggest signs of that are Mars's recent acquisitions of fresh pet food marketer Nom Nom, and also Mars' acquisition of Pretty Litter. So they're covering two bases there. The litter acquisition really is a step outside of Mars's normal bailiwick. So they're moving into a whole nother area. I think that one of the things that DTC obviously does, as the name indicates, direct, it connects marketers directly with consumers. It also, from the retailer's point of view, it's sort of, and from the distributor's point of view, it sort of cuts out the middleman, so to speak. So interestingly, what we're already seeing is an effort by major retailers to sort of curtail that trend. Obviously, they don't want to be cut out of the mix. So you have, for example, Mars, after acquiring Nom Nom, making the announcement that it's going to be also distributed exclusively through PetSmart as well as online. You've got Pet Plate moving into Pet Supplies Plus. And then you've got Petco, which a couple of years back made an alliance with Just Food for Dogs, which started out as a DTC brand that also had its own store, a couple of its own stores. So it's really transforming the industry in multiple ways. But one of the things that I think that we are definitely going to see is DTC increasingly becoming omni-market, realizing that it can't afford to completely bypass brick and mortar.
That's interesting. In terms of the transformations in the market, I'm wondering if it's fair to say that sustainability has reached a new stage of urgency. And certainly for your millennial and your Gen Z consumers, who will in fact very much be experiencing the effects of our decisions and our actions now. What are you seeing in terms of sustainability initiatives and asserting market leadership in that way?
Well, it's definitely, and again, it seems to relate at least partially to the pandemic, with just consumers in general becoming more health aware. And that health awareness extends to their pets, obviously, but it also extends to sort of the health of the planet. So it becomes almost like an existential type of a situation where particularly younger pet owners, millennials and Gen Z, are seeing the future as the planet, as the future of their own health. So, and millennials and Gen Z, as is well known in the pet market, are just a huge component and growing component of the market, basically the future of the market. Already big spenders, inordinately high spenders in many areas of the pet market, willing to spend on products that, are premium priced products, which is of course very important. And in terms of marketers being able to differentiate from, the standard fare, sustainability is sort of becoming a very important facet of premiumization. So you've got marketers who are really completely positioning both their companies and their brands on sustainability. New cat litter brand called Sustainability Yours actually places, sustainable in the name of the brand, which is something I don't think that we've seen until very recently. You've also got companies like Planet Earth, and there's several now who are really nodding towards sustainability. But it's not just what you call greenwashing. It's actually making real steps toward sustainability, whether it's in terms of product sourcing or the way the products are manufactured, the way the plants are fueled. And sort of one of the big remaining areas is packaging, which is a big issue and a growing issue in the pet food business, where most of the product packages are not recyclable. So there are major moves underway there, including by Mars testing recycled packaging in Europe and so forth. So I think that that's definitely going to be a much more important factor in pet owners' purchasing decisions in the years to come.
So since we started with market growth, let's close off with another question about market growth. The Pet Market Outlook report tabulates and presents detailed data from MRI Simmons, showing that a boomlet, at least in pet adoption, among middle income and upper income households was largely offset by attrition in pet ownership among lower income demographics or among households who might just be more budget conscious. And so particularly in the retailing and manufacturing arena, there has been a pretty broad assumption that there was a pet adoption boom, and certainly media reports expressed sort of that trend. But some veterinary sources have been more skeptical about any real pet population increase. And that's based not only on foot traffic, but also on the sales, on the distribution of supplies associated with annual pet checkups. So this new information in Pet Market Outlook seems to sort of square the story. So yes, there certainly were a lot of people adopting pets, adding pets to their menagerie, and spending quite a bit in that process, both on non-food supplies, on durables, as well as more generally on food and some types of services. On the other hand, there was a lot of attrition among the more economically, moderate or again, budget conscious households. So with that nuance to the pet population story, not really the pet spending about which there's not much question, but with that nuance to the pet population story, does that affect the near-term prospects for pet market growth or the durability of the current boom?
Well, I think the short answer is not too much. I think that the pet industry should always be concerned about attrition in any income segment in terms of pet population and acquisition. And lower income households have, to a large extent, been left out of the whole premiumization movement in the market. That said, it has been the upper income households, as well as households that are not necessarily high income, but they're just very willing to spend large amounts on their pets, larger than average, larger than in the past, including millennials, as mentioned. So in terms of, with so much of the market growth continuing to come from premiumization, and probably one of the best examples of that right now is the fresh pet food boom, which costs a multiple of kibble. It's far more expensive and it's really taking off. So it's sort of proving once again that the sky is sort of the limit in terms of spending compared to what we may have thought it was in the past. So, of course, we want the pet population to continue to increase, but it's almost a moot point. We have sales data showing that the sales have increased, including in categories that clearly indicate new pet acquisition. So even though it may be a wash in terms of total numbers of pet owning households, as long as you've got that growth and that willingness to spend occurring in key segments like millennials and high income households, I think that we're just fine, including in 2022. One of the other effects of the pandemic has been the heightened awareness, even higher awareness of the importance of pet health and wellness. So that's really kept the spotlight on it, and I think, and that's one of the big drivers in the premium spending, and I can't see that abating during 2022 or even 2023.
Okay, David, thank you very much for sharing your
Sure.
insights and expertise.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you.